And that's really the system we're moving toward. When I say we, I mean really in the West. It's not just America, but other countries as well. One of the ones I'm most proud of, actually, and it's a long section, actually, because the hot thing of the moment is stakeholder capitalism. Now, I think that's a contradiction in terms. Stakeholder, as opposed to shareholder, means that beyond just the owners of a company, the shareholders, others should have a say in what these companies do. So it's a mixed system of it's private ownership, but it's basically government and other communities, if you will, telling corporations what to do. So they use the word stakeholder in contrast to shareholder precisely to dilute the ownership of these companies and make them subject to public control. Not a stakeholder can be employees, it can be suppliers, it can be politicians. I've seen some stakeholders described as even the earth as a owner of corporations, and people who represent the earth and its resources get to run the corporations or sue the corporations or manage the corporations. So that's a very bad direction we're going in there. One or two more things, and then I'll stop and be glad to take your questions. Well, let me skip to this since I'm talking about different systems. I've been teaching this at Duke for a while. It's a way to clarify for students how these systems can be conceptualized. It's pretty well recognized that capitalism is a system of private ownership, of what's called private ownership of the means of production. Now, the means of production obviously are factories and tools and equipment and things like that. And socialism is well known, even among socialists, they'll say this, they'll say, we want public ownership of the means of production. And anything beyond a small little commune, public is going to mean government. It's going to mean government owning the factories and owning the equipment and therefore deciding what is produced and how it's produced and by whom. Now, fascism is actually a hybrid, what I call a hybrid. You notice it's in the upper northeast quadrant of this matrix. What is fascism? It actually is private ownership, but public control. And that's really the system we're moving toward. When I say we, I mean really in the West. It's not just America, but other countries as well. The socialism part of it, when you think about it, picked up in the 30s, 40s, and 50s. But by the time the Soviet Union came to an end in 1991, the world had pretty much figured out that there should not be public ownership of the means of production, that it's disastrous, that it absolutely creates massive poverty. Even in Britain, which is considered many people thought a capitalist country, from the end of World War II till the time that Thatcher was elected in 1979. So that's what, 40 years. Britain was nationalizing everything. They were having government take over a whole bunch of things. British Rail, British Coal, British Steel, British Telecom. And it was amazing. And they were based, and that was mostly the Labour Party, of course. And the Labour Party in Britain actually have, as part of their policy plank, government ownership of the means of production. It's really remarkable. Not until Tony Blair became prime minister, this is after Thatcher, right, that he said to the party, you really need to take that out of our platform, take out the public ownership of the means of production platform. It wasn't taken out until 1995, really quite remarkable. So this is what we have. This is why, by the way, you see woke corporation, stakeholder theories. It's basically, I hate to say it, it's fascism. And fascism, we know, is associated, from the 1930s with people like Hitler and Mussolini. And sometimes people will be reluctant to say we're going there because it doesn't look like the US, has Nazis in the streets. But technically, that is the system that we have, and it's going to get worse if it isn't reversed. There's going to be more and more, not obviously government owning companies and industries, but telling them what to do. And the CEOs themselves are becoming more and more compliant. They're becoming more and more appeasing. They're not standing up against government saying, stay out of our business. It's none of your business. They don't say that anymore. They say, we have to serve humanity and the society and the government. And they're willing to sacrifice shareholders for that. So that's a very troubling development. I think I'll stop there, Leo. I don't want to go on too long. I think I've probably given enough that people can come back at me and argue with me and chew on some ideas. I'd love to hear from your participants. And I'll stop there.
Of course, before we open up the question, just a few thoughts came to mind that I'd like to share with the audience. It's from the book. Let me see which. It's from the article "Freedom is Indivisible." And the quote goes something like this. It says, paraphrasing a once apt account of the evil that occurred in Hitler's Germany, we might say of today's would-be controllers and despots that first they came for economic freedom, but few objected because most cared only about civil freedom. Then they came for civil freedom, but few objected because most cared only for political freedom. But then finally they came for political freedom and